Was it her fault? Had she unleashed something terrifying? She sank down on top of the bed, wondering what on earth she could do. Certainly she couldn't tell Mandy what had happened. There were several Bibles in the house, so she moved one to each room, and went round with a bundle of smoking sage, hoping these would help. Things calmed down for a while. Millie, the dog, refused to go upstairs. Things were moved around in the kitchen. Mugs and plates kept appearing in the wrong cupboards. A bowl full of roses she'd brought in from the garden were strangely lying on the floor, with all the water tipped over them, although the bowl itself was exactly where she'd placed it. She accused her family of doing these things, but they had sworn they had nothing to do with any of them. She and her husband decided to get someone from the church to come and exorcise the whole house. Although Rebecca believed it was only the area where the old man had lived, by now she knew about him. She talked to her neighbors, and while they had been cagey, they did say there had been something wrong for a long time. One old crone who was known to be a bit senile even went as far as to ask her how long they expected to stay. Rebecca replied that they weren't going anywhere else. They loved the cottage and the village. The old lady almost cackled as she said,
"You'll be moving on. Everybody does. He won't let you stay. He'll see you off like he does everyone. Nobody can take it. You'll go, you listen to me. He will see you off, same as he has everyone else. And you've got that young girl living there. He hates young girls ever since that maid turned him down. He will soon start saying she's a hussy just like he did to her."
Rebecca then remembered believing she'd heard someone calling her a hussy just after she had told him he could stay. One evening, before the vicar could come to clear the house of negative spirits, the three of them were sitting in the little sitting room when they all heard heavy footsteps above them in what had been Mandy's bedroom before she moved into the spare room. Mandy cowered in her chair.
"Mum, there's a burglar up there." Hugh, who wasn't admitting he was scared, agreed to go and have a look.
Carrying a long-handled wooden post he'd brought in from the garden, he crept as quietly as possible up the stairs. Rebecca and Mandy heard him walking around and hoped the burglar wouldn't attack him. When Hugh reappeared, he was shaking his head. There was nobody up there. The weird thing was that every cupboard and drawer was open, and all the things were scattered all over the room, as if someone had been looking for something. Neither of the windows were open, and the door into the bedroom was closed. Nobody could have come down the stairs, because we would have heard them. Rebecca just whispered,
"It's the ghost of the old man." Just then a wood pigeon clattered into the window.
"I think the old woman was right. We are leaving as soon as we can. The man from the church is coming in a few days."
A few days later, Mandy was staying over with a friend while Hugh and Rebecca went to a dinner at the golf club. They'd had a lovely evening, and Rebecca was preparing for bed. Hugh wanted to catch up on some golf on TV. She sat on her stool in front of her dressing table and mirror and began taking off her makeup. As she sat there staring into the mirror, she watched in horror as her face changed in front of her. What had been a pretty 45-year-old face began to age, gradually becoming older and uglier. Her hair became long and grey and straggly. Her mouth turned down. Wrinkles and lines crisscrossed the image. The ghastly old woman, who looked like a witch, was gradually turning into an old evil man. As his wretched face looked out of the mirror, and he grinned, an almost toothless twisted smile greeted her with a knowing look. She was about to scream when she saw an invisible hand writing in red across the face of the mirror. "Hussy." Now too frightened to let any sound come out of her mouth, she watched as the glass in the mirror cracked and broke into 100 pieces. Now she screamed, and Hugh dashed upstairs. He found Rebecca sobbing and surrounded by tiny pieces of glass, some covered in what looked like red lipstick.
What happened?
Rebecca could barely speak. She just pointed at the mess of glass.
It was him. He wants us out. He told me early on, soon after we moved in. How dared I tell him he could stay in his own home? And he called me a hussy. That's what he wrote on the mirror, hussy.
Come on downstairs. I'll pour you a large brandy. And by the way, there was a message from the church minister. He's coming tomorrow morning. If he can, he will send the old man away. He told me that the ghost was probably trapped on Earth and needed to be sent to the light. He sounded convincing. I believe we will be safe in future, but for tonight, while you finish your brandy, I'm going to phone hotel just down the road and book us and the dog in there. We'll get back in good time for the minister, and I think we'll just leave the broken mirror so that he will be able to see what he is up against.